Time for another video for the political napalm. Let's get right into it. Today we're going to do a quickie blast. Since some of the most recent videos have been a little long, let's do some quick newsworthy items for today and get on with it. Boy, this Temu ad on the right side over here is interesting. It looks like we have... Okay, now I'm glad it switched over to a Uniwheel new wheel ad over here because that other one was strange. Anyway, so George Santos has been arrested on fraud charges. This article right here happens to deal with his Brazilian one, which, believe it or not, he had still been on the run from. So what was going on with this one over here is that he was wanted for fraud charges in Brazil, but then his subpoenas went unanswered because he had left the country. Brazil decided that they did want to go after him after he won the U.S. House of Representatives seat that he got in 2023. And this actually was a run in 2022, but he came on board in 2023. He passed two rather large checks in Brazil that got himself in trouble, and then said, okay, I'll take care of it, and then wound up fleeing the country. Honestly, everything about George Santos truly reminds me of the Leonardo DiCaprio movie of Catch Me If You Can. This dude cannot tell the truth if he was about ready to face the guillotine. I mean, if somebody was like, what is your real name 2 seconds before he's about to lose his life, he'd say Bob Smith. I mean, this guy is just an utter and complete joke. So he has recently decided to confess and say that he stole he's going to give nearly $5,000 in payments. He avoided prosecution for the two stolen checks by donating $2,000 as a fine and another $2,800 to a victim of his scheme. This is crazy. But here in the States, Santos was arrested and taken into custody on 13 federal charges that include money laundering, wire fraud, which usually becomes a big one, and falsifying financial statements to the U.S. House of Reps. Thank God that's in here, because once you involve the government, this kicks up several notches. Prosecutors allege Santos falsified financial statements, fraudulently collected unemployment, defrauded political donors by asking them to send their money to an LLC, and then using it for a scheme by making it about his personal expenses. So hopefully some swift justice is coming to George Santos. You have absolutely got to read the wiki page on him. A link will be in the description. This guy is just completely nut bar, top to bottom. When he won his election, by the way, he won his election with less votes than when he lost a previous election in the district. So he represents New York's 3rd congressional district, which is considered the wealthiest in New York and the 4th wealthiest nationally. That's crazy. I didn't know. To some degree, I knew there was some money in this area, mostly because of Great Neck over here. Being a former Long Islander out here in Suffolk, Nassau over here is closer to the city. So, of course, you have Brooklyn, Queens, Nassau, and then Suffolk, which goes out east on the island. In his district, you have such notable towns as Oyster Bay, Syosset, Jericho, Hicksville, Bethpage, Levittown. Looks like Levittown gets split a little bit. If Levittown sounds familiar, you may know it from your history books as where the Levittown idea started from. Yes, it's Levittown, Long Island. The Levittown idea is known for basically cookie cutter tracts of land and houses where developers would buy up a plot of land and just basically make giant rows of houses that were all very similar. You see it in a lot of areas now with like townhome clusters, but Levittown is where they started doing it for homes, and it definitely was a major player in the houses that you would see here in Deer Park, um, Islip, and other areas on the island. So that's where the Levittown idea started. But this um, the Long Island Sound coast over here of northern Long Island, especially in the Great Neck area, does have some money. We've also got Manhasset in there, Plainview, Port Washington, Jericho, Farmingdale, and in Queens you have Little Neck, Whitestone, Glen Oaks, Floral Park, and Queens Village. This has been a predominantly Democratic area, and one of the only reasons why he won is because Swozey decided to vacate his post and run for the New York State governor, to run against Hochul. So he sort of had a give me in the area. When he came up in the Republican area, and it's too much to get into, but really read this wiki on him. Even the Republicans in the area didn't know anything about this guy and said his campaign and his organization, he was just basically a giant diva. It was very high maintenance. It was a really toxic work atmosphere because he would fire people and then just hire young people because he could kind of control them better. They had no knowledge, they had no work history, they weren't able to do the job well, but he could basically control them better because of their youth. Other Republican activists in the area called him bizarre, unprincipled, and sketchy, just a fabulist, a fake. This article, if you've ever seen that Leonardo DiCaprio movie, this article will make you believe this guy is living that movie. Originally, Democratic parties didn't really think he was that big of a threat, so they didn't pay for reports on him, and they realized that they should too late. So Zimmerman was like, crap, it's too late. I don't have the money for it. We're not going to get it in time. It's probably going to be a waste of money. But Santos really got the win because Republicans started backing him, realizing, like, wait a minute, we're going to be able to take the House. We need a dude like this. And that's where they started to support him. But after he got the nom and got sworn in, after the whole Kevin McCarthy thing happened, 4 Republican New York congressmen, Desposito, Nick Lalata, Langworthy, and Brandon Williams, called for Santos to resign. Other 2 new members to Congress from New York, Joseph Cairo and the chair of the Nassau County Republican Party, Joseph Cairo, the chair of the Nassau County Republican Party, called for Santos to resign. Of course, Santos said that he wouldn't. He was not blocked by good old Kevin Quick-Carthy over here. He was not blocked from any committees because he had in his pocket Kevin, Steve Scalise, and Elsie Stefanik. However, he did take himself off committees, but only briefly, and then went right back in. The move was temporary. So this guy is just bizarre to the max, and he was arrested, but then got bailed out. Somebody paid this dude's bail, which makes me kind of wonder, because right now we don't know who did it. It makes me wonder if Ricky Schroeder decided to rear his crazy in the woods Unabomber head again, like he did with Rittenhouse back when he was arrested and everything. Moving on, of course, we all know that Trump was found liable for the sexual abuse, aka sexual battery, aka sexual assault, and defamation of E. Jean Carroll. In that case, he was not found liable for the rape charge. Actress Nicole Yvette Brown from The Walking Dead, and from she was the elevator lady in Avengers Endgame. She was the one who was like, well, was the beard Mungo Jerry? Or I forget who was the other person. She was like, oh, it was a definite Mungo Jerry beard. That's Yvette Nicole Brown or Nicole Yvette Brown. Anyway, she had made a post that the reason why the biggest charge didn't stick is because that Trump's PUD was so small. E.G. Carroll wasn't sure if it was, let's just say, digital or PUDable as to what was going on over there. Later, after the trial, E.G. Carroll has said that it's on me that that charge didn't stick because she didn't present a strong enough case in that. And she said, I know what that feels like. That's what was there. So perhaps what Nicole Yvette Brown said is actually what came up in the trial. I haven't really looked into that point of it, but it makes me wonder if she was not joking, if that was a true statement that was said during the trial, that she wasn't too sure what exactly was going on there because she was so panicked and trying to fight and everything. But regardless of that, let us not forget that there is still a defamation suit that is open between E.G. Carroll and Trump, and he doubled down on the absolute psychosis by continuing to go after her during the CNN town hall last night. That CNN town hall, I don't know what they were thinking doing that. Today, Anderson and Caitlin are trying to do a bit of a bolstering tour in the media, saying, oh, we had to do that because you can't pretend that a candidate like that isn't out there and just bury yourself in the sand and blah, blah, blah. Honestly, the way they treated that town hall last night, they were better off doing exactly that. Pretending he didn't exist and leave it to ON or Newsmax or Right Side Broadcasting or any of those crazy networks and let him go on there for the town hall. And it would have been a softball interview. But what CNN did with the crowd and literally stocking it with pro-Trump Republicans, they made it a complete clown show. To see what the audience laughed at, what they found funny, what they murmured agreement on, was just utterly ridiculous. I could not believe the things that they found amusing, including his mockery of the trial with E.G. Carroll and her turn of events and everything. She is, through her lawyer, considering another defamation suit based on what he did during the town hall. And of course, you have MAGAs sitting there saying he didn't defame her. He just said he just said everything was true. She called her husband an ape, and her cat's name is Vagina. These are all true, and blah blah blah. It's because they're forgetting the other things that he said about her during that. They're trimming the bush, so to speak. They are forgetting the other things that were said and just focusing on the things that they think they can win. And to give an example of that, I had a discussion last night into this morning about the things that Trump was found liable for. And this guy kept saying it was the defamation. I'm like, are you forgetting the whole other charge that he was found liable for? And this person was like, what, the battery? And I'm like, no, to classify it as battery is a disservice to what happened. When you hear the word battery, the connotation is something like assault and battery. You think of a mugging, a bar fight, a sporting event fight, something like that. When you hear the word battery, the first scenario that pops up in your brain is not sexual abuse, or sexual assault. Those words define it better. And there's maybe 2 sites out there that ran with the title of battery. However, then you could see that the whole article actually talks about sexual abuse, sexual assault. So when I kept hammering away at, like, you can say battery all you want, it still was libel for sexual assault / sexual abuse. The guy, of course, made with the block because he just got wrecked at that point. But this is what Trumpers are sitting here saying, like, the ape thing was right, the cat thing was right, like, where is he defaming her? And they're completely forgetting about the other things that was said. And like this person over here, billionaire surrounded by beautiful women his entire life with 0 sex assault claims until he ran against Hillary. This is not true. This shows this is somebody who has done absolutely 0 research whatsoever. There were claims dating back many years with him. There was the Jane Doe Epstein event. There was his own admission as to what he does during the Miss America pageants and everything. This guy's history is far richer than simply running for president in 2016 against HRC. This picture here, which one of these doesn't belong? This is a joke that somebody would post this 5 hours ago, because during the deposition, he was shown a picture of what E. Jean Carroll looked like in the mid-90s, which, by the way, when he says she was 60 in the 90s, that wasn't true. She was in her early 50s. She was born in 43. So in 93, she would have been 50. In, I think, 96 is when this would have happened. She would have been in her low 50s. In the deposition, the person deposing him says, okay, who's this? And he's like, oh, this is my wife at the time. This is Marla. And Haba is like, no. That's E. Jean Carroll. And he's like, no, this is Marla Maples. This is my wife. And you could tell Haba's like, oh, God, he's tanking this right here. And he's like, oh, it's blurry. So it's incredulous that somebody would post this and think it means anything. Also, you noticed over here that Ivana is dead and died shortly before the NDA was going to expire about her own abuse at Trump's hands. So this is just typical Trumpublican stuff going on over here, quoting the things that are factual and just pretending the others don't exist. Moving on from that, the Republican hearing that had been hyped up for so long about Biden's crazy dealings and wheelings and peddling vice presidential influence under Obama for money and everything was a nothing burger. It was just a completely dry fart in the wind. Some things about this were not really great about Hunter Biden. However, for one Joseph R. Biden, nothing came out against him. And this guy in the lead over here has totally admitted we don't have the proof. So this huge Marjorie Taylor Greene backed circus where she's like, it's coming, and she was making these posts for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks about Biden. And you had people saying, well, I don't know what Biden, I don't know which named Biden is going to get arrested for something, but somebody with a Biden name needs to get arrested or brought up on charges. It just completely dissolved in the wind. And Comer just said, yeah, we don't have proof, because it's patently ridiculous. It is whataboutism. It is deflection. The same thing was happening with, Trump being on civic trial for what he was with E. Jean Carroll. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Getz are bringing back up the Tara Reade stuff, which went nowhere, of course. So finally, speaking of that town hall, let's take a look at Caitlin Collins' past over here. Caitlin Collins was a reporter for the Daily Caller,
from our nation's capital.
News.
Caitlin, what does that mean? What's George Soros trying to do with the immigration crisis?
Good morning. Okay, so George Soros is this foreign-born left-wing guy who essentially wants to change the nature of our country. And in this data dump, one of the memos was about the refugee crisis. And they made 3 points. They think that they've been successful at influencing immigration policy across the world. They think that the refugee crisis is an opportunity to continue doing so. And they think the refugee crisis is the new normal. And George Soros is this guy who is a staunch advocate for open borders. He wants people to be able to go wherever they want, whenever they want, for whatever reason. And for him, he sees this immigration policy, this crisis, as a vehicle to further his immigration agenda.
From our nation's capital.
So yeah, Caitlin Collins, who was representing CNN last night for that town hall, that's what she has espoused in the past when she was working for Fox News. So everything just sounds completely crazy that she would go from this and wind up at CNN and then doing this town hall and everything. It raises a lot of questions. Who is the real Caitlin? The Caitlin who tried pressuring Trump for his craziness about the 2020 election and the documents case and January 6th and everything? Or is it this Caitlin Collins who's sitting there doing, of course, the George Soros great replacement theory, Tucky Wuckums crap when she was still aligned with Fox News? It really creates a giant question mark as to who is Caitlin and how does she really play into this? Was she partisan against Trump last night? Was she actually truthfully partisan for Trump and just making a good shell of it or something? I don't know. There is a definite history with her here, and I mean, last night's town hall, some of the things that he said just needed to get pushed on a little further, and to see the audience clap and cheer and laugh at the E. Jean Carroll stuff, the "you're a nasty person" comment to Caitlin, because the way they spin it is like, oh, she was just asking him the same question, asking, and he wanted to reply, and she was just interjected with, "Yes, I want you to answer. Go ahead and answer." And he's like, "Are you going to let me answer? You're just a nasty person." Yeah, it's crazy stuff has been going on with him this week, and he just is going to keep on making it worse. And it's really going to be interesting to see if EJC winds up going after him again for the things that he said. One day after he's found guilty of 2 of the 3 charges, including the defamation charge, and he goes right back and defames her more, just like that guy being interviewed on Dershowitz's little thing the other day that we covered in the previous video, where that guy was like, "Yeah, we need to defame her some more," and it's like Trump heard that and went ahead and did it. Anyway, this is the Political Napalm, signing off to the next episode.